Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far, and the action does not stop here in the Call of Duty world. The Major 2 qualifiers begin today, but so many roster changes are going down right now. Hicksy's at it again, while Clayster reveals he does currently intend this year to be his final season competing. Very much enjoying your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy the video. Subscribe if you are new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. Really up to the channel, thank you very much indeed for doing that. Not far at all away from 76,000 subscribers. Absolutely love to see it. First of all, just to mention real quick, the final few hours to pick your team for the fantasy side of things for Major 2. This is my team of 4. It's probably not great. I'm sure you guys can do better. The link will be down below somewhere. Description, pin comment, all that type of good stuff. Get involved, free to enter, always a good time. Speaking of roster changes then, plenty going on seemingly behind the scenes right now. Some announced yesterday. Thought this was quite interesting for Method. It was 1 year ago yesterday that he was actually benched from the Toronto Ultra. And kind of, from there it was a difficult time he had, right? Of course, Insight comes in, the team gets better. By the end of the next stage, the team got significantly better without him, right? And then he goes down the whole streaming route and has done such a fantastic job over there. So really cool to see the way the last year has gone for Methods, right? Because he was in such a tough spot a year ago today. And then, well, to see where he is now, just fantastic. Back on the league, the stream's killing it. Hopefully the team can only continue to get better over time. Let's talk Paris Legion then. So they do confirm what we kind of expected. That, Decimate and Fellow are out of there now. Like, they basically just release them from the team. Don't even keep anyone on as a substitute. I'm pretty sure Theory is still going to be their sub. So they're hoping, I guess, they don't need a sub. And if they do, they can do kind of a 2-week contract, just as our London Royal Ravens have done. Yes, they do have a substitute in Harry, but I don't believe he's got his visa stuff sorted out. He's still over in Europe, so they've got Paul X right for today's match. We'll look at that in a few minutes' time here. But Jimbo is going to be joining the Paris Legion for Stage 2. He's coming in place of Fellow, and I think this is a pretty exciting possibility. Some were wondering, look, John is still on the team. I think he was pretty good at the Major, but in the online games, he's definitely been pretty lackluster. So I do think there's a lot of eyes on John, because there's guys like Havoc, right, sitting there in the challenger scene, killing it right now. Then if an opportunity does avail itself, then, maybe Havoc actually goes into a team like Paris, because to be fair, this new roster with Gravity there, with Jimbo there, actually taking a chance on some of the young talent, because that's the thing, this Paris team could have done so much better, I feel, the last couple of years, in terms of the way they've decided to go with picking up players. Like, instead of just picking up bottom-of-the-barrel former pros, like, who, well, probably would be out of the league unless Paris gave them a shot, like, who are basically in last chance saloon, instead they could have gone down this route sooner and gone for guys like Gravity and Jimbo, or of course some actual French players or European players and European talent when they had the opportunity. Like, there's been some talk that they were kind of talking to Hydra, well, certainly talking to Hydra, but also Pred was on the radar. I think Mac was maybe on the radar as well. There were some players they could have acquired a while ago that when no other teams are interested in them, that, they could have locked up. They went down a very different route. Now, seemingly, they're finally discovering a good way to build a roster. This French-Canadian SMG player, Jimbo, comes into the roster. Hopefully, he can upturn this team around, because if Paris all of a sudden become like a top 8 team that can compete, then it's actually a really exciting time we have, because no teams, if Paris actually can compete again, are like 3 Ws anymore, apart from, maybe York Subliners right now. But of course, we'll talk about them in a second right here. Hopefully, they can turn things around as well. I'm sure they will do. But again, at first, they're going to have to win a hard points. This also just to mention from Spinner Spencer real quick, because yesterday we talked about what Crimsix had to say about getting kicked out of the backstage stuff. Spencer explains right here that players are removed once they are eliminated from the tourney due to protocol reasons to ensure there's less chance for a spread. In fairness, that was kind of a big explanation or a big frustration that was had at the kickoff classic from the likes of Clayster. Of course, then, the boys aren't really going to go and chill out in the crowd, all that type of stuff. And there's no shared space player lounge anymore anyway. So, I thought that was a good explanation right here from Spencer, just to explain kind of what Crimsix had to say yesterday before we actually dive into the New York stuff. So, first of all, I'll just share this quick clip from Shotzzy. Thought this absolutely hilarious, to be honest, when he stumbled across Hydra, Neptune, and Clayster playing a ranked play game. I'm thinking, okay, hang on a second, is this some sort of information? Because a few days ago, we saw that Hydra and Neptune were playing ranked play together. But, obviously, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. We know they're good friends anyway, outside of the fact that Royalty was currently in the starting team. But with Clayster in there as well, that lends a lot more credence to the idea that, yes, probably Neptune is going to return to the starting roster.
Look. Literally intel. He's literally playing with Hydra and Clay.
It's been announced.
Oh, yeah?
No way, Hicksy almost made another appearance.
Even more so when the Subliners go on to tweet this out later in the day, kind of like a, merman type emoji, right? Like, they were always, I remember when Neptune was they did quite a good bit of teasing, like when Neptune was initially getting announced for the roster. So probably this means Neptune is back. At least that is basically what everyone is saying right now. The Royalty is going to be after their Neptune's back in the team, and they're basically going to keep the team as is with no Clay or Grim gone. This honestly is an expected change. The Royalty move initially just seemed like a move, everyone basically said this at the time. The team isn't working. We've got to try something. Let's get rid of Neptune, bring Royalty, and hopefully it works. It didn't work. No one expected it to work. And, do you really see this team of 4 back in business working again? Maybe they get somewhat better with a kind of new mindset. Okay, like maybe it's not Neptune's fault. Let's just try to improve as a quartet. Maybe that will help them. But I still feel like, to be honest, after Stage 2 Major, that's when there's kind of a bit of a time off in the middle of the season. It's like a mid-season break, effectively. And that's when teams like York Subliners, Los Angeles Guerrillas, like these teams that are probably still going to be at the lower half of the pecking order are going to make some massive moves. And that's when you could see a guy like Crim or Clay get out of there. Because right now, there's no market for those players. They would just have to sit on the bench. So they might as well be in the starting lineup. That's at least my prediction for how the next month or so is going to go. But for now, it does seem like Neptune may be returning. I mean, Crimsix says, I'm an artist. Clay's League PC, most certainly. So he's having a good time. I mean, these guys, obviously, they fell out a few days ago as well. They've seemingly got back on decent terms right here going into the new stage. We do imagine they're going to be on the team in addition to Neptune. Like, bringing Neptune back, it makes sense. Like, I don't really think he was the issue on the roster. Like, you can still see he's got plenty of potential. And also, Royalty had pretty much identical stats to what Neptune had. So maybe Crim and Clay have kind of come up with the idea, okay, maybe let's not just package Neptune and Royalty into this box, that they've just got to get the hill time and have very low engagements and very low kills. They need to actually do some slaying. Like, not many other teams actually have their SMG players playing in that type of role. Neptune was very clear after he got dropped. They're like, look, I don't want to play in the way that Crim and Clay were trying to get me to play. Maybe if they do come around to that idea and treat things a little bit differently, then this team could take some strides in the right direction. But, well, it does remain to be seen, most certainly. They talked about it a bit last night on the No Pressure documentary that comes out. This was honestly a great insight into kind of the behind the scenes of Clayster's life, and not really any talk about the roster particularly, but just behind the scenes stuff, what went on with the major, after the major. Just I thought it was really great to see these players behind the scenes. We don't often get to see. So I'll share a quick clip here from when Clayster talks about the argument and the kind of fight that was talked about with Crimsix a few days ago. If it was anyone else, it probably would have led to the explosion of the team, but they've managed to get on good terms once again.
Yesterday was the day before the major. Me and Crim kind of disagreed on something and got into it a little bit. While it got a bit heated yesterday, and it got figured out in the end. If this was me and somebody else, like literally anybody else except for Porter, it would probably be a much bigger deal. But, we got into it a little bit, tempers flared, got a little hot in there. But, last night, sent me a long text. I responded back to him this morning. We talked it out a little bit and we're fine. It's like, no matter what happens in game or how much tempers flare or any of that stuff, me and Ian are like, I consider him one of my close friends. And so at the end of the day, it's like, all right, let's drop the Clayster, let's drop the Crimsix, let's talk as friends, as humans. We still got a lot of COD to play left, and I'm still seeing progress and that our ceilings haven't been reached, and that's inspiring for me and gives me hope that we're on the precipice of being a contender.
So speaking of Clayster and the state of the New York Subliners roster, what exactly is going to go on with his career going forward? Because he was kind of making it clear towards the end of that video, the No Pressure documentary, that he's having a good time playing Call of Duty again, right? He said it a few days ago. He's playing a lot of ranked play, having a much better time than he was this time last year. But still, how long is Clayster going to compete? At the end of this season, he will have turned 30. Even last year, there were some questions whether he'd even come back for this season, like when he kind of benched himself or got benched at the end of last year, whatever exactly the story was that was coming out of the Subliners camp at the time. The question was, is he ever going to return? Is he going to retire? When are we going to get the next of the kind of top 5 greatest of all time players outside of Karma a few years ago retiring from the game again? Is it going to be Scump? That seems very unlikely the way things are going right now. Crim, Clay are the other 2 guys up there, right? And you would think that maybe Clayster's time is coming to an end relatively soon, at least on the professional side. And he basically says this on the flank last night. So they go through and do a tier list. And as you can see in the chat right here, I can't have an aBeZy here by last year. So aBeZy, of course, was, he competed for Los Angeles Guerrillas back in 2019 or 2020 on Modern Warfare. He apparently got a massive bag from them and then got benched after 2 months and never played professionally again. So, he was pretty terrible at the start of the game, but he managed to cash in fairness. And obviously it was only a year or so earlier on 2018, he won the World Championship. But still, Clay's like, look, I don't want to have an awful year on my last year. I don't want to go out with a whimper, right? I want to go out with a bang, try and turn this team around. But I'm basically saying, look, my last year, pretty much implying that he does intend right now this year to probably be his last one, right? After Vanguard, he might well hang it up. I do wonder what will happen here, just because that next year's game is probably going to be Modern Warfare 2 or whatever, which is basically going to be the same game we think as Modern Warfare 2019, where Clay and Crim won the World Championship. So I was always wondering, even if Clayster says this now, is it possible that if they do have a decent end to the season, maybe an opportunity, becomes available? Could Clay think, okay, maybe let's just try and run it back on Modern Warfare 1 last time and go for the kind of back-to-back Modern Warfare World Championships. Who knows if that's even a thought process that comes into consideration. Clay does continue to say that that he's not all that worried about the state of the New York roster. We just have to be on the same page. That's all it is. So, well, look, we'll see what happens there. If Neptune is coming back as we expect him to, that I guess is going to be the crucial thing, because clearly before, like, Neptune and Clay and Crim definitely had different ideas on how they wanted their SMGs to play the game. And I'm sure they're studying some of the top teams right now and figuring out how that can best work. Because honestly, going into this year, Hydra and Neptune on paper had a load of talent in the SMG role. Never really translated into reality, especially with the ARs not really turning up. A lot of hard work ahead of this team if they are going to bring back that old roster. I'm still not convinced it's going to work, honestly, in the long term, but they have a big match coming up today against the London Royal Ravens. Just to look at this real quick in terms of the flank tier list, I thought this is pretty good. Aches was arguing for FaZe to still be number 1, but I thought that was a little bit faded, to be honest. Ravens at number 3. The rest of the tier list goes like this. New York, of course, right now sitting in last place. Who can really blame the flank for putting them last place? Paris actually won a series. New York did win a series against Boston a while ago, but they have not looked good by any means. With the changes, Paris probably gets slightly better. Seattle down here in 9th place right now, which is, well, pretty shocking how they've gone from pretty much number 1, top of the tier list, all the way down to the bottom within, just a few weeks or so, right? They're back in business, right, for where they've been the last couple of years. Los Angeles Guerrillas not too far away from there as well. Middle of the pack teams make sense. I think this is a pretty good tier list right now. To me, the top 5 is significantly above the rest of the pack. I also saw this that Alicat did on the Call of Duty League channel. I thought, honestly, again, this is pretty good and reasonable. Like, maybe Seattle could be slightly lower or higher. Minnesota, like, they're probably about reasonable, to be honest. Paris all the way up to 9th, I think is probably a little bit ambitious after they've just won 1 series. But, and also, the most faded take for me is the Ravens over FaZe. I don't think this is all that bad down here. Like, I feel like Paris probably is a bit optimistic putting them this high. But Ravens over FaZe is like, as much as I want to believe it, there's just no way that's the case, right? They lost to them in the losers finals or whatever it was. And, London are just clearly not quite as good as FaZe right now. Like, FaZe and Optic, to me, seemingly the number 1, number 2 teams. But, maybe London will get there at some point. I don't know. Maybe Alicat's predicting the future. So let's talk about the games that are going on later today. Paulx, of course, subbing in for London in tonight's matchup. First game day in a while. He reckons he's locked in for the game. Clay's like, look, please go easy on us. Lock out, bro. We had a team workout today, bro. We are locked. So Paulx and Zero, he's healing the boys into the team. 2-week contract, 2-year contract. It don't matter to me. You're part of the squad. So the boys are getting ready to go. Already having team workouts. It's absolutely over for the competition. These then are the 3 games going on later today. So Subliners Ravens. Very exciting game. Of course, Ravens have Paulx in the team instead of Gizmo for now because he's gone home briefly for some personal difficulties. I believe he'll be back next week or something along those lines. So anyway, Subliners are going to be playing up against them. Look, I don't know what's going to happen here. I'm predicting Ravens are going to win regardless. If Neptune is coming back, who knows if they have like a crazy honeymoon period for the first week or so when he returns. But I think there's going to be kind of some teething issues within the squad once again, you would well imagine. And right now, London are just good in all the game modes. Who knows what that means with Paulx, but to me, Subliners are going to have a hard time winning a hard point. And if that's the case, Ravens are going to win this series 3-1 or something like that. We know we love a 3-1 fashion over here. Seattle versus Boston, a cracking series to be honest. Can Seattle bounce back? Boston are kind of that kind of gatekeeper team. They're kind of 6th or 7th right now. If you beat them, it probably proves you can take on the top dogs to some degree. I actually think Seattle will bounce back here and take this one on a 3-2. And then they've got Mutineers versus Los Angeles Guerrillas to close out the day. Again, I'm going to go with a bit of an upset and say Mutineers win this one. I don't really know what to like. It's just so tough to call. It's honestly, just toss a coin, honestly, whenever Mutineers are playing a series like this. Because you have no idea how they're going to turn up on the day. So, I'm just going to take Mutineers 3-1 or something. But very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, hit a like button. Tell us your YouTube God, this is a good video. I'd also like you to see it as well. And I hope you grow the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you for watching as always. Take care. And I will see you next time.